Recently, Bungie buffed a handful of underutilized exotics, giving them new and additional effects. The Warlock exotic chest piece, Chromatic Fire, received changes that affects each subclass in a unique way, and today we are going to explore one of its most powerful pairings. G'day Guardians, Roguey here. As mentioned, Chromatic Fire recently underwent some changes to its exotic perk, Crystalline Transistor, adding an additional effect to its elemental explosion, something akin to the bombardiers that hunters have access to. When getting a precision final blow with a kinetic weapon, the target erupts in an elemental explosion, dealing damage to all surrounding combatants and applying a debuff. This debuff changes depending on your subclass. Arc adds a blinding effect to all enemies hit, Solar applies 15 Scorch, Stasis applies 30 stacks of slow, Strand's explosion severs enemies, sometimes creating tangles, and finally Void applies Weaken, causing enemies to take 15% additional damage. The damage from the explosion itself is enough to take out any nearby red bars, making the secondary effect only useful towards mages and above. Something to consider when picking which subclass is best paired with Chromatic Fire. I like having the extra damage from Weaken, plus I think Void Warlock is stronger overall. Next up, I need to pick a weapon that packs a precision punch. There are a lot of great kinetic weapons that pair well with Chromatic Fire, but I really wanted to take advantage of Void's keyword, Devour. Devour is an incredibly powerful buff exclusive only to the Void subclass. When applied, any weapon kill or Void ability kill fully restores your health and refreshes the buff duration. So, what kinetic weapon does massive precision damage and can make use of Devour? Touch of Malice can. This exotic scout rifle was the cream of the crop back in Destiny 1, and despite returning with a few new tricks, has not been able to live up to its past potential. Without a constant source of healing, the self-inflicted damage can lead to many avoidable deaths, especially when you try to push for extra damage and get cleaned up by a stray shot or AoE explosion. Devour solves this problem. Each kill fully restoring our health and shield, keeping us topped up and away from death's door. So, now we found ourselves with an infinite ammo, high damage scout rifle that heals us to full on every kill and creates a void explosion on precision kill, weakening all surviving combatants. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. Now that we've got a solid structure, let's start by filling out our subclass. I always lean towards Cataclysm as my Nova bomb of choice, but I'm sure Vortex is fine too. Healing Rift is a great sustained backup when Devourer isn't procced or you are taking down a powerful foe. Void Warlock only has one melee, so Pocket Singularity it is. With so many grenade options, it really is pick your own poison here. Vortex Grenade is my choice though, as its gravity well effect is perfect for clumping up groups of adds, allowing for your elemental explosion to hit as many targets as possible. For aspects, we need to run Feed the Void. This gives us easy access to Devour through Void ability kills and grants us the means to extend Devour's duration through final blows. Our other aspect is Child of the Old Gods. The Void Soul provides us another source of Weaken, Grenade, and melee energy regen while targets are being drained, and a chunk of class ability energy when we defeat drained targets. An all-around welcome addition to any skirmish. With our aspects locked and loaded, let's fire up our fragments and finish off the subclass. First up, we are running Echo of Harvest. For the small cost of 10 intellect, we gain the capability to create orbs of power and void breaches by defeating weakened targets. With multiple avenues to apply weaken, this fragment is a must-have. By running Echo of Starvation as our next fragment, we can take advantage of the extra orbs of power and void breaches we are generating. This fragment gives us a reliable way to proc Devour if we ever find ourselves without. Playing with Touch of Malice has its risks, and while Devour mitigates most of these random deaths, can still occur. Respawning without any of your buffs and abilities on cooldown can grind this build to a halt, which is why being able to proc Devour off orbs, a plentiful resource, gives you a way to get back into that perfect combat loop. Echo of Persistence gives us extra breathing room during combat to reposition or wait for the next wave of adds to spawn without Devourer dropping off. Finally, we are running Echo of Vigilance, a new fragment released alongside Lightfall that gives us a Void Overshield when we defeat a target while our shield is depleted. something we are doing often thanks to Touch of Malice. This fragment does have an internal cooldown of about 8 seconds or so, but when procced it gives us the extra health needed to take down some of the tankier enemies without Touch of Malice taking us out first. I've yet to try this build out on other subclasses, but given we want to be using Touch of Malice, Solar might be the only other viable option, making use of Restoration to offset the damage. With our subclass fully covered, let's look at what mods we'll be using to amplify our damage and reduce our cooldowns further. Since our main source of damage is going to be the heavy hitting precision shots from Touch of Malice, we want to maximize this as much as possible. Running 2 kinetic surges on the legs ensures that pretty much every red bar will die from 1 headshot and will reduce the time to kill for the mages, saving us from taking any extra damage from Malice. Since we've got the surges running, we may as well double dip and have Font of Vigor and Font of Focus in our arms, reducing our grenade and melee abilities respectively. We'll want to have Kinetic Siphon in our helmet, another way to create orbs of power. Once everything in this build begins to flow together, you'll be showering nearby allies with orbs. Rapid kinetic kills, orb. Defeating a weakened target, orb and breach. Picking up the orb, 18% damage buff to our kinetic weapon, improved cooldown for all our abilities, and access to the most powerful buff in Destiny 2, Devour. Safe to say, orbs are crucial to the success of this build. To round out our remaining mod slots, we've got Double Bomber and Powerful Attraction in our class item and a single copy of Installation in legs. For your chest piece, pick and choose the best defensive mod to suit the activity. Our seasonal artifact has a few goodies in here that help smooth out some of the edges. Unto the Breach is another source of Void Breach if Echo of Harvest is on cooldown. Protective Breach adds the additional overshield effect to picking up Void Breaches, which, as mentioned with Echo of Vigilance, is an incredibly powerful effect that has great synergy with our build. Finally, while not really build specific, I like to run squad goals so my mere mortal teammates can have a taste of the immortality that Devour brings. And, unless I'm mistaken, this mod is the only way in the game to get Devourer to effect on non-Void subclasses. Pretty cool. The gameplay loop is pretty simple, yet very satisfying. Throw out your grenade, use your melee, or pick up an orb to proc Devour. From there, our main focus is refreshing the Devour buff at every opportunity. While Touch of Malice does deal a considerable amount of damage, killing most red bar enemies in a single hit, you'll need to keep an eye on your health when taking on tankier targets. Make sure to leave a red bar or 2 alive that you can easily clean up to refresh your health. Now, I won't lie to you and tell you that this build is going to help you solo Nezarec or beat the Moon Battlegrounds in under 10 minutes, but what I will say is it makes Deep Dive and Salvages a heck of a lot more enjoyable. So, test it out for yourself, the dim link is in the description, and as always, see you next time, Guardians.